This is Radar for On the Radar Entertainment Blog, coming to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 149. Turned out this week, I watched all dramas. So the first movie I watched was called Jumbo. And you're looking at this and it's like certified fresh by Rotten Tomatoes. 94 minutes with credits, so it was 90 minutes. But when you're reading about this, a young woman who works in an amusement park and she lives with her mother and she's fascinated by the lights in the carousel. And she meets the park's new flashing attraction and a thrilling and unique romance ensues. She literally, like in that Guillermo del Toro movie where the woman fell in love with the fish, there have been people that fall in love with animals in movies, falling in love with creatures like Beauty and the Beast, or falling in love with robots. She fell in love with a freaking roller coaster ride. And like always, her mother didn't like it and wanted to throw her out of the house. Her ex-boyfriend or people she worked with are worried about her. Her mom's current boyfriend, as she was just probably sleeping with so many guys, that's why her daughter didn't like it, was like, you got to give her a chance. And then her mother was like, well, I'll have your illusions and put on a wedding. So most of this movie was her being in love with the roller coaster ride, even getting naked with it. And yeah, like, it's just weird and stupid. It was like a pointless movie. I understand like French movies are supposed to be like art movies, and you say Americans don't understand art movies or like this type of movie. But again, this was just freaking stupid. Like, it just was a waste of time. And then watched Aubrey Plaza and Emily the Criminal with Theo Rossi, and Gina Gershon was in it for like 2 seconds. And it's a little bit reasonable to feel yourself in that role for her, is because she's struggling to make ends meet, working these stupid delivery restaurant jobs. Her friend keeps telling her, oh yeah, I can help you get a job based on your skill, but it really is not a job, it's an internship, blah, 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 blah. And like one of her coworkers said, you can make quick money by doing this thing, and it's like an illegal operation. And so it's interesting to watch a movie where she's like working in this illegal operation where it's technically not super illegal, but it's somewhat illegal what they're doing with like the money and the buying and selling of stuff. And Theo Rossi and her have a romantic relationship, and you're like, well, that's how movies are. I don't think in real life the guy running the operation would just have a romantic relationship with any one of the people that he's working for, because then, you know, his cousin or friend screws him over and the two of them got to work together. And I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and then I rewound the parts that I watched, and it was still like, eh. Like the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie was eh. It was interesting while they were doing all the illegal stuff and whatnot. And then eventually, like, it's like, well, stuff happened, and she's living elsewhere doing the same gimmick. It was like, okay, it was okay. 90-something in a movie, not a lot of time wasted. Then I watched with my roommate. He wanted to watch a movie, and it was one of the long ones I had. It was called Gigi and Nate. So it's based on a true story about a dude who's about to go off to college, and his family is in their summer home in, I don't know, the middle of nowhere, the small little town. And this Charlie Rose did a good job in it. Marisha Gay Harden, who's currently on To Help Me Todd, is the mother. And Jim Belushi's gone from comedian, stand-up comedian, comedic actor to being a lot of serious roles. So I give him a lot of credit. Playing the father who works a lot and wasn't there. And Diane Ladd playing the grandmother, who had some great lines in the movie. The siblings were pretty good, including one of the siblings who is the middle child on the show Better Things that was on FX. So I've seen her before. His girlfriend or the girl that was his friend in the movie was pretty good. And basically, he jumps off a cliff, and then he's swimming in this water and all this other stuff, and he has just some rare disease or whatever the case is. And the whole movie's it was cringy, because you know what the plot is based on a true story, and reading the back of the box of the movie, you're like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to be the thing that pushes over the top that he's got to be in the hospital and he's going to be immobilized and paralyzed? Like, you're just waiting and waiting and waiting for it to finally happen, and then it happens. And then you're like, well, how are they going to deal with this? So they decide, let's flash forward into the future. And the whole point of the movie is he gets this monkey, and this monkey, because monkeys can go do all these things instead of like a dog or a cat or a turtle or whatever these other emotional support animals, but this one really helps, is there to help him because he has his own little like garage where he lives and does his things and showers, and he's got a woman who helps him, like a nurse, whatever. And it's like things are going pretty well as, progress over story, getting close with this animal, and you're moving on. But then there has to be some sort of Karen lady who's part of like the, PETA in a way, or her own thing, where she's like, you can't be using animals as slaves. I'm like, okay. And supposedly she's been doing this for a while, and the guy who playing like the sheriff who comes in, I've seen him before, and it's like the second half of the movie turns into like no longer like a nice emotional story, but it turned into like a courtroom like legal drama where It's all over the news. They go to court, and I'm like, really? They took them one day of hearing to come up with a new law? That seems a little bit rushed. I felt like it would take multiple days to weeks to months to years to come out with a law, unless, you know, they're like, it's been happening, this was just a final blow. And, you know, it's just like, leave this person alone. It's not like some random dude has a monkey in his house. Like former NBA player, current NBA player JaVale McGee had a pet, you know, lemur at one point, or monkey, and people are like, you can't do that. You can't have him like roaming around in your apartment. Was helping a guy in a freaking like wheelchair who's paralyzed and was only making improvements because of the monkey. Like, it's just like, this lady didn't have any context of like how it's going to screw over the family and stuff. And instead of the movie, you know, at the end, like a lot of these dramas based on true stories telling you what happened going on in the future, nope, it just ends with them figuring out a solution for him to have the monkey still, to go to college and have the monkey and all this other stuff. It would have been nice to have like a wrap-up, but overall, it's a pretty good movie. Then I watched the movie Breaking with John Boyega, and one of Michael K. Williams' final movie. And one of the bank tellers in the movie is currently on the sitcom Lopez vs. Lopez, playing George Lopez's ex. I don't know the other bank teller, but it was interesting how this Wells Fargo had zero security, just cameras, whatsoever. The guy can walk in. And it's similar to the movie Ambulance, where Jake Gyllenhaal's brother has all these bills and these medical expenses, and he's not getting help from the VA, and this guy had his money stolen from the VA, and he's trying to get it back. So since he was in the military, he makes a bomb and takes it into the bank, but everyone else leave. I just, you know, only holding these people hostage. Connie Britton had a small role in it, where she worked at the news station, and Jeffrey Donovan was one of the cops. And I was like, I could tell that guy's punchable face, and I was right. Jeffrey Donovan always has a punchable face. And Michael K. Williams was like the hostage negotiator, and he was just like, I've done this before. I don't want any murders or anybody getting hurt. I just want to like diffuse the situation. But of course, there's always these other people that go, no, if we have the shot, we'll take it. So basically, it's basically like Ambulance without them stealing from a bank with guns and a crew and caving a hostage of a cop who's been shot and a paramedic and stealing an ambulance. There's just one guy in a small town in a bank trying to get his money back from the VA and try to make a point by getting the news choppers and stuff. And of course, instead of being 2.5 hours, this was about an hour and 43 minutes with credits. So it takes off all that time, doesn't have all the other stuff. And it's basically a drama with John Boyega struggling and talking to Michael K. Williams. And it's sad that Michael K. Williams passed away in the last year because he's one of the better character actors of my lifetime. It's just sad how it ended. And again, based on a true story. So they're not like going off script with everything. It's all the stuff that happened, so you know what the outcome is. But yeah, it was okay. Boyega's a good actor, but everyone's going to remember him for being in Star Wars no matter what he does. Okay, and then Unseen First Santas, I didn't get to watch the 7th movie, but the 5th movie I watched this week was supposedly a movie called Happily Ever After. It says it's based on a best-selling worldwide phenomenon. And I'm someone who used to have a list on Wikipedia since high school where it tells you coming home video. And that includes like Blu-ray versions, special edition, movies that have never been on DVD or being released on DVD, or first time ever being released on Blu-ray. So it's like an extensive list, and you got to be careful what you watch. But I don't have that anymore because Wikipedia got rid of it. So I'm just going on all the sites like IMDb and all these movie sites. And I was like, okay, there's this drama, it's 9-something minutes. It's got the Ariel Kebel, who was in Midnight Texas and a bunch of other stuff where I've seen her before. The father from The Gifted was in this movie. And, like, I've seen some of these actors before, but, you know, I don't know their names and things like that. And you're like, okay, so it's a drama about a guy and a girl where they're in a toxic relationship and they go back and forth. And you're like, okay, let's see where this goes. But the movie starts, like a TV show, like, bam, like, right away, like, oh, previously on the last episode, like you're on a soap opera, this happened, so we're right here in this thing. And because again, this is not a Wikipedia like back in the day where I had this list, we're talking about Wikipedia, where I get a little bit of description, I just like, okay, there's a new movie out. It's the 4th chapter in a movie, and I'm like, watching this movie and saying to myself, this is one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my life. How is this the 4th movie of a franchise? Like, you're telling me this is the franchise of movies? When this is just like horrible, over-the-top soap opera acting with horrible people with no redeeming quality. It's just like, why does anybody care about this? So I don't get how there's already 4 movies, and I didn't know that this was the 4th movie in a franchise. It's called Happily Ever After. Happy Ever After. Like, I thought, okay, that's a cliche rom-com or drama, a romantic movie, and it's not. It's just a bad movie with some good actors in there playing stupid roles. So again, it's like, don't get the point of this whole entire franchise. I'm blowing up the franchise. Well, guess what? It sucks. Then I watched the movie Paradise Highway with the all-time legend Morgan Freeman and Frank Grillo, who seems to go back and forth seamlessly playing good guys and bad guys. He plays a guy in prison. His sister's a truck driver, and they take that to advantage of her smuggling stuff. And the movie's basically he's about to get out, and there's like, we got to do one last thing for me, and it turns into a whole cluster crap of stuff because it's basically the cargo is a girl and everything goes wrong and she's on the run from the cops, from the people who made the deal with her, and she thinks her brother's trying to help her, all this other stuff. So it's like interesting enough of a movie where you're dealing with truck drivers and human trafficking and the life of the struggles of being a truck driver and the solitude and dealing with all the struggles where, people can try to attack you, steal your money, try to steal your rig, all that other stuff, dealing with the human side of human trafficking. And the cool thing was, it's nice to know that Cameron Monaghan, who people know from Shameless, but I know him as the freaking Joker from Gotham, is getting a chance to be in a movie, even though he's playing like a boring cop working with Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman swore he had some F-bomb. He's like an old FBI agent, but he's really dedicated to the well-being of the child trafficking, so I like that. And yeah, it was a good thriller-esque type of drama movie where all you want in the end is the good guys to come out on top. Because a lot of movies, it just ends and everyone dies, or everyone goes to prison, and you're like, why'd I waste my time sitting through almost a 2-hour movie? This was a worthwhile to sit through, an hour and 55 minutes, with credits, that it was not bad. I've never heard of this Juliette Binoche, but she, as the lead character in the movie, wasn't bad. And again, Morgan Freeman usually doesn't waste his time in bad movies, and this is not a bad movie. I don't know, Rotten Tomatoes professionals think it's less than 20%, but then all the fans think it's like a 70, 80%. I don't get it. It was good. Obviously, the best movie I watched this week was based on a true story about the paraplegic, guy paralyzed in a wheelchair and having this monkey help him out in life. Based on a true story was the best movie. And then I would say Paradise Highway was number 2. Number 3, I would say the Boyega Story, because it's a lot shorter and straight to the point than the movie Ambulance, even though it's like basically the same plot in a way, was better. And Emily the Criminal was okay through parts of it. I just would not watch Jumbo or not ever venture into the franchise of movie that After Ever Happy. It's not even After Everly Happy or Happily Ever After. It's After Ever Happy. It's just like, okay, bad franchise. Didn't even know it was a franchise to begin with. Thanks again for listening to another edition of Movie Reviews and Observations number 149. For On the Radar Tape Blog, I'm Radar. See you guys next time.